Okay. As soon as I got...
Stated it from a news that was causing us any federal interference on the site over in Clarksville, Tennessee, and he had this damn thing, and I was like, dude, you can't technically legally own this.
That's what I wondered if it was illegal.
It's almost like a jammer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, since you know more about this than I do. Is it possible that if you do use those things to stop... Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because adding on to this, the neighbor across the street from me, I had gone over to her house one day to do something, and I couldn't get them to answer the door. And finally, I called her, and I'm like, why are you not answering your door? And she said, I didn't hear anything. And I'm like, girl, I'm over here pushing your ring button thing. She has a ring doorbell. Now, they had footage that they turned in, but there wasn't anything on it. Nothing on it. I said, why isn't your doorbell, your ring thing working? And she said, well, I don't know. It was working when this whole thing happened. Her camera just stopped working out of nowhere. The people beside them, same thing. Both of their ring cameras had gotten burned up. Can it do that?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm just wondering who else had that same problem.
Go to YouTube, search Super, or what we call Super Camera. Like, I'm telling you, I've got it. It's like that.
You can just buy it.
If I turn this on, I can literally hack the PA system and put the whole.
Okay, so is it possible then that if she had one of those, can you interrupt cameras or whatever for a period of time and then they turn back on?
That would be questionable. I don't know. I wouldn't answer that one just because I know on the RF side, right, because it's a frequency thing, and it's just like your cameras work off I think it's like 2.5 to 3.7 gigahertz. That different depends on if it's pushing more power than the frequency allowed to be received by the said output device. And it's got like whether it has an RBS filter in it, whatever it has, it could try it, yes.
Okay, but what I'm saying though is like if she had one of those, knowing that they had a camera at their house where the car was sitting, could she have interrupted like the interrupted enough to not shut the camera off, but interrupted enough to stop the timer, the timestamp, and then it start working again? Because he said it was working the day before, and then out of nowhere it just starts working again, and it was only stopped for 2 hours. The timestamp is only 2 hours off.
I would say yes. I would say it has to be. I hate to say anything. I can look into it though.
I guess I'm just saying, like, is it possible for that? I mean, that just seems to be totally not random, considering what happened.
My thing is here's my thing on all of this. The fact that I've heard these people for my whole fucking years say what you said, and I'm like, dude, he's a little bit different. I'll give him that. Like, you can tell he's kind of agitated with everything, and he just don't know.
Well, because we're just so fed up with it. I mean, we just keep getting, and like he said, his phone, you know, he just kept getting phone calls. And of course, he's frustrated because, like he told me, he said, you know, I even started telling the detectives what I saw, and they argued with me and basically try to convince me that what I saw was not right. I said, they did the same thing to me. I told your wife that. And he said, I know. She's so frustrated, too. It's like no matter what we tell them and no matter what we're seeing, they don't want to hear it. We don't know what we don't know.
I think that, I don't know, I'm interested to see what Chris just texted me. He says he's doing something with the live show and everything. So I'm interested to see what
he's putting it together. He was putting it together after when I called him after you were doing the drone footage, and I had called him as soon as I got home to tell him what you and I had discovered. And it was
What? No, she has a black Chevy SUV, like she calls Black Beauty. But where she said she was back in Florida today. But she wasn't at her house, and she didn't have Delilah, like her little dog, with her. So.
Well, that's not. I know that she drives. I do know because I've seen it. The dark Chevrolet Equinox.
Yeah, that black. Yeah, that's the black one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've seen that one come through her when she first came in the first time. But I'm just wondering because everybody knows that's what drives, is it possible that she rented a car? Because I'm telling you, when we were out there talking, there was a white GMC Terrain, older model GMC Terrain, that drove up, down, and around, and I was like, where is the car going? Because it didn't recognize that. I've never seen that one there before. But we're getting so much traffic now again between her and this reward. We got all kinds of people coming through here again.
I was sitting there, and after you had left, Dick was sitting out there and talking to him for a minute. And there's like 4 people in there in the road that would just turn around.
Yeah, they're just coming through here to see what's going on. Like, okay, great. Thanks. Drive through, please. Go away.
The gate at the front of the tickets.
No kidding. I'm like, at what point do we get to, like, could y'all please leave us alone? Just leave us alone. I'm just so done with all this crap. But I think that's the thing, is a lot of people are just done with all this.
Well, I'm not about that too, you buddy. I didn't even catch you off guard. You live there, and I'm like, no, I'm not. If anybody's going to know she's back in this little area, I'm like, sure, Bobby would know.
Well, I got home, like I said, I got home and I jumped in the shower really quick because I had this appointment and I was soaking wet with sweat out there talking to you guys. And then it was hot. It was like stupid hot. And then I got on the phone with Chris and we were talking for a little bit. And then my kids were all home and we were doing all that kind of stuff. I had not been outside. So if she came back through here with her car, I didn't see that. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Who was the other person? Who else is on the phone with me? Who is this? That's Chris.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to know that?
Yeah.
How? Why?
Because she's not one of the bad ones.
No, I know, but like, you saying that, like, yeah, I'm like supposed to know that. How?
You don't TikTok. You watch TikTok, right?
I don't. That's what I told you. That's what I told you. I don't have TikTok. I had to look you up and find you.
Damn it.
Well, I was like,
You don't YouTube, I forget.
I do watch YouTube.
I'm on YouTube. I don't have my own channel on YouTube. I'm not on, like, I just, like,
You need to.
shoot, no. I'll stick to,
Do you do TikTok as well? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I'm on TikTok. When Riley Riley Strain was missing, I was undercover in the homeless encampments.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, I mean,
You should hear her fucking story.
Oh, that's like super creepy, man.
No, she got balls. Didn't you think? You know how you're saying that about balls?
Yes.
Ricky got some balls.
Yeah, but the thing, there's a big difference between vocalizing things, saying things, versus physically doing things. Because physically doing it and being out in the field doing it is like for real balls. But I think Betty has
she has a mental disorder balls. Like,
she's a narcissist. She's a psychopathic narcissist. She wants everybody to feel sorry for her because she came out here and worked her butt off. I'm gonna tell you something. Our neighborhood, I personally called the police on her. Personally myself. And several of the other neighbors around here were throwing a fit about her just nonchalantly driving through, taking videos, and then getting out of her car and walking out of her neighborhood without asking a single person, stapling these papers, the flyers, to the pole, which it's great. I'm glad that you're trying to put the word out, but could you have asked first? And then ironically, a big storm comes through and literally blows every one of them off.
Well, here's the problem. It's one thing to do it for general somebody that cares. Like, Tracy and I went out there and posted all this shit, but she was up there doing it. I wouldn't post it out there while I'm searching.
I don't know that that's doing anything. I just don't see how posting flyers in their neighborhood.
yeah, she did that. She did that for, like, it wasn't for, she did that to harass them. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's all it was harassment, and just to say, so
I'm doing something.
A middle finger, like, hey, try and stop me.
dude, what she's doing right now is a middle finger where she's using
Yes.
whoever's family.
Yes.
She's using something. I'm like, dude, I sent it to Tim Bailey, and I said, you just gonna let this happen? Like, she's literally making y'all look stupid.
That's what bothers me is, and that's why I called you earlier to be like, I don't agree with how law enforcement handled this in the very beginning. And I don't.
When I went up there earlier, though, when I was on the phone with you and I went to Sheriff's Court and I was talking to them,
Right.
they
black truck come through the neighborhood. It was completely blacked out, which really creeped me out. That when the deputy, not the deputy, the officer came up and talked to me, and I was telling him what was happening. Of course, he found a person, and they claimed to have car issues, which doesn't make any sense if you're going to be completely blacked out. Like, that's weird. But anyway, so we were talking, and I told him, I said, I feel like nobody cares about us. It's all about protecting the people who are doing this. Like, I'm all for, your amendments in the Constitution. I'm 100% for those. We have to have our constitutional rights. But at what point do we as families who are trying to live a private life that didn't ask for this, where do we get protection? None. There is zero, zilch. So he said, you need to talk to your commissioner and see if there's anything that he can do to change things or add things or something to help
Bobbie,
protect you guys.
Here's a suggestion. Why don't y'all do, like, put up a sign, just like, this neighborhood is under video surveillance. You don't have to actually put it under video surveillance, but just, like, put up a sign.
Well, like that dude said, that neighbor that, well, I'm not going to say this person, but, he said put one of those things in. I think that was just a play reading.
But it still goes back to what good is it going to do?
Well, here's the thing. If nobody has to know that it's not like that it's just a bluff. But if people think that they're on camera,
They may not.
if they think they're on camera, they aren't going to drive,
Yeah, but I didn't think about that way. It's not necessarily what they know that happens to them. It's the fact that you're being recorded.
Yeah, they
really want to be recorded doing whatever you're doing.
exactly. And
Or if you ask Betty Bullhorn, she'll tell you, I can do whatever I want to. I'm within my constitutional right because she's a genius and she knows the law better than anybody.
yeah, well,
Yeah, I can't stand that woman. She is an idiot.
She's super alt-right.
Is she what?
She's
Yes.
super alt-right.
yeah, alternative right. Yes, she is, Steven.
What does that mean?
Like crazy far right.
Yeah, far right. But then there's there's MAGA occultists, is what I call it. And then you've got the far left, which is like any occultists, what you call them. And then you've got your normal Democrats and Republicans. You know what I mean?
Oh, I never heard of all that. That's like genders. How many genders do you have? How many sides of politicians? I'm a conservative patriot. What does that make me? I'm not afraid to ask. I'm like, I like my guns. I like the ability to talk. I don't want government control. Yeah, I do want police because I know that they do help protect us, and I don't feel like they get enough pay. But I don't know how this is being used. She's using the law on her favor, and I think she's gone. So, but I also I think that she's using that far right tactic to make everybody think that she's this good person, and I really think that's fake. I think it's fake to get people to think she's this big American supporter of, like you said, MAGA, blah, 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 whatever. Well, I'm a MAGA supporter. I want to make America great again. I want that more than anything in the world. However, we need some laws to protect us. I just feel like it's almost a point where it's protecting the public more than it's protecting us. And I've called my commissioner twice, and he has still yet to call me back. So I'm wondering if, is she causing such a scene legally that now nobody within the government in Sumner County wants to mess with anything to do with this case because she's just threatened everybody?
I think that's part of it. I think that one of the other things is that she is kind of trying to intimidate everyone into, like, backing away from the case. Like, saying she's going to dig into Craddock's, like, deep dive into all of Craddock's stuff. She's going to deep dive in the sheriff's department. And she's trying to use that to intimidate people to not, like, not investigate her, Tony, and all them. Because I think they're money laundering. I'll just be honest. I think they're money laundering.
Oh, yeah. Well, you mean Sumner County or her?
No. Not Sumner County. Not Sumner County.
Okay.
Them. Like Tony Mathis, Seth,
Yeah.
Betty.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest with you, and I think that...
Steven, you didn't sign the contract.
You're I'm not doing it for the wrong reason. You're doing it for the right reason. So the people who are doing it for the right reason are typically not going to make as much money because you're doing it the right way and not. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I think I was used as a pawn, and I don't know how you guys feel about. Well, I shouldn't mention any.
JLR.
Okay.
I'll say it for you.
I was going to be nice. I'm trying to be nice, but I think he used me as a pawn. She really did. Yeah, I didn't say it. You said it.
No, I said it.
Yeah.
I'll own it.
I truly believe that he used me as a pawn. And then when it came down to it, and I sent him a message, and I told him what happened and how I was treated, he pretty much just said people are crazy. That's all he said. I even sent him the video of the guys that were attacking me and calling me all kinds of names and all this crap, and said, wow, that's awfully nice of them, and never said a word, never came, nothing. He didn't come to my defense, never said a word, and I thought, oh, so basically I was your pawn. And it didn't even dawn on me at the very beginning when he very first asked me if I would go on his live with him and if he could use my name. And, of course, my name is Bobbie. But I had it on Facebook as Mrs. Bobbie because having a unisex name, a lot of people don't realize the spelling is different for male versus female. So a lot of people think I'm a man. And it's a picture, my profile picture is a picture of me and my husband together. So a lot of people that don't know me, well, not sure which one's Bobbie and which one's not, whatever. And so I had Mrs. Well, it didn't dawn on me when he asked me, it's like, well, can I just use your name as Mrs. Bobbie? I think he did that on purpose so people could stalk me on Facebook. Because I've had people trying to send me a friend request to connect with me on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And no, I'm not.
I'm not taking up a JLR here. I really ain't. Because I've been through the ringer with him. But, it took him a while to apologize to me, to be honest. I think it comes, man. Honestly, I think he's just something's wrong. I think that he's off. Like, he doesn't have.
If you sue the people that he sued and sue the Eiffel Tower, I mean, what do you expect?
I do not trust him as far as he could pick up a rock or a boulder and throw it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think the man's kind of like bullhorn in a sense. There's something wrong.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to about money and clicks.
You give me another rock, so help me God, and you cost me $3,000.
He's yelling at the dog.
I was gonna say what?
Yeah, not that rock. He's not talking about the rock that you were talking about.
I literally just had a rock and he's yelling about it. I'm like, I didn't say I was eating it. I was saying he was gonna throw it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That was perfect timing.
I knew what was going on in your head, Bobbie. You were like, what the heck is he talking about? I didn't eat a rock. How did I cost you $3,000?
Yeah, it totally threw me off. Okay, that was hysterical.
My dad started to eat rocks and bones and had to have his damn stomach pumped.
Oh yeah, that's when you want to strangle the. Yeah, I get it. Well, I know the night that he asked me to be on that live, and I had told him that I was very nervous about it, and I even asked him if he could do the video without my face and voice. I mean, just my voice and without my face or anything. And he was just like, well, we can do it that way. But I just really think that, the community needs to hear from a neighbor and needs to put a face to a name and all that and kind of try to convince me to get out there. And I just feel like, regardless of what you're doing, if what you just did, well, first of all, when he told me when we were on the live, he said, you've got over 2,000 people on here. And, of course, I panicked. I'm like, oh, my God. That was not at all what I wanted to happen. Like, that I just blew my mind. But and then afterwards, when I got attacked and all this stuff came out and whatever, I just felt like if you're going to set that situation up and what you did caused that person to be mistreated, you created that. So the least you could do is come back and do another live or another video or something to try to counteract that and explain that, this person was nice enough to do this to you. The least you can do is counteract that with, y'all got this all wrong. And it made me mad that he did not even one time defend me. Not one time. Like, you created this, and the least you could do is defend me. But he didn't.
Yeah.
Could care less.
with creators, I've learned that you cannot expect that they're going to look out for their interest, and that's it. And if it if it doesn't benefit them to go out and like die on a hill for you, so to speak, then they're not going to do it.
That's true.
Unless it's going to generate like another, revenue for them.
Well, and certain, like you said, certain people, I have learned to realize that they are all about the money and the clicks. And then there's others that really are trying to get information out there and get, like you said, the number and whatever out there. But yeah, I just had to be really careful about who I talk to, who I trust. That's why when Stephen first mentioned this mob crew guy, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. But then when I saw the video, I was like, wow, he's really putting this together and really making sense. He actually made me question some where the lights were going. So when we got to talk to the neighbor, it was like, oh, and of course Chris was so excited when I called him afterwards, because he was like, basically me confirming what he was suspecting, and he was like, oh, he was so excited, and like, oh my God, this is awesome, I can't believe this is, so he was excited that what he put together actually worked. So that was a confirmation he was enjoying as well. Now, Stephen, let me ask you this. When you said there's no way that somebody could carry somebody over that ditch, I mean, it is deep and it's wide. I've walked over it 1,000 times myself. My sister used to live behind it, on the other side over there. I've walked over that ditch myself 1,000 times. I physically could not have carried somebody. But don't you think that if she was in the military and went through the training that she went through, I'm hearing that she's strong as an ox and very smart. Katie, yes.
What do you think? What do you think happened though that would have made her not call? Like, if it's not like an accident, if an accident happened, I think she's,
No, I think she did it on purpose. I think she drugged him, and either drugged him to the point of knocking him. Because the question is how they, after we know about what happened with the whole light thing, and now we've got it confirmed, for a fact where the lights went. But I know that my kids were over in the construction area, and let me rephrase this before anybody assumes anything. My kids were not standing next to the dogs when they jumped in the water. They were at the top of the hill, on top of the dirt mound, and could see the dogs from where they were standing. But they were not walking with them. They were over there in the property with them. The dogs jumped into the pond. The handler had to pick up and drag the dog out of the water because it's like quicksand. And when he came back out of the water and they walked back up to the back of the property where our house meets the construction area, my kids were out there and asked, what happened? And the handler said he jumped in the water. And my kids were like, what do you mean? Why did he jump in the water? Well, not only did he tell my kids that, but he told my neighbor down the street the exact same thing when they came door to door asking for video footage and do you mind if we search your property? Her husband asked him, the dog was right there. Her husband asked, did you guys get any hits? And the guy said the exact same thing.
Hold on. Well, I'll be right back.
So, here's my thing, is how would they, did you hear that Seth was allegedly missing from the jail for 2 hours?
The first thing I heard was there's no account of him being at work between the hours of 2 and 5. Then my neighbor down the street, who I was just talking about, her family, she's got family and friends that work at the jail. Her granddaughter works at the jail. She got it confirmed that there is no account of him being at work between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So he was definitely not there. He was down here in the car. That's where I'm going. That's my opinion. I think.
So do you think they're all in on it then?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
All three of them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think so. Yes. I think that Katie was at home, and when Monday morning, when my neighbor that's directly across the street from their house, who Stephen actually saw today, when she called me that Monday morning around 8 o'clock asking me if I had heard what was going on, of course, at that point in time, I literally just got up and I didn't know what was going on. Her story to me by Katie was that Katie they'd gotten back from Texas Roadhouse, and Sebastian took the trash out, and then she was sitting on the couch watching TV, and Sebastian was in his room.
Okay.
Right. Sebastian was in his room, and supposedly supposed to be getting ready for bed, whatever. Well, Katie was on a couch, and I think it was about 10:30 or so. She heard a thunk and yelled across the house, "Sebastian, what are you doing?" He's like, "Nothing, Mom. Everything's fine. Go to bed." So she goes in the kitchen. She does whatever she does, and then she goes to bed, and everything is done. Never one time did she ever mention being on the phone with Chris or doing schoolwork or anything like that. None of that ever happened until after she did that first YouTube live with that one person, that lady.
Yeah.
So the question was, when I called my neighbor back and I asked her, I said, "Did you know anything about that phone call?" She said, "No." She never said anything to me about being on the phone with him. So then I talked to another friend of mine who lives down the street from me, who was actually at the command post. And then my neighbor, her granddaughter, is in the EMS service, and she was there at the command post because they had EMS there in case for the first week, just in case they happened to find him injured or stuck somewhere or whatever. And she was at the command post, and she said that they got a ping on his phone in Memphis at the RV. And she said, "Yeah, but it never moved." So the idea is he left his phone sitting in the RV so that he could have an air quotes alibi, and when they pinged his phone, it would be up there. Well, he was here. I have no doubt in my mind he was in that car with Seth. Chris got out of the car and walked to the house, or called Katie and told her to bring him out. Now, I don't know if he was already dead or she just drugged him, but the question I have is, if she just drugged him and didn't overdose him, but just drugged him, because he took sleeping medicine.
Right.
So, I mean, if you take enough of that, it completely knocks you out. It could kill you. I mean, obviously you could overdose on that and it could kill you. So, did she overdose him and kill him, or did she just knock him out? And then, did they take him to the retention pond over in the construction area and drown him? My son accidentally got into that retention pond just a couple weeks ago with his four-wheeler, and he literally had to pull it out with a Jeep because he said it was like foot sand, and you could hear it suction when he pulled the four-wheeler out of it. You could hear the suction of it. So if somebody got into that, it would not have been easy for him to get out. So who's to say they didn't drown him in there and then push him down in there or dump water or dig him into that? You know what I mean? And then it was raining, and it rained for 2 or 3 days after that.
If anything, see, I don't think Seth and I don't think there's any that all three of them could be involved, because I don't think that there's any way that they would let Seth profit the way he has from this case. Like, he's the only one that's profiting. Katie and Chris were about to get rid of Sebastian, so I'm like, what would they have had any motive?
Because she's getting to keep the Social Security money that she was getting from Sebastian, and now instead of having to pay for all of Sebastian's medical stuff, I also think that here's the other thing too, though. I think they had to get rid of Sebastian because he was talking to the school and the nurses and the counselors about what Chris was doing to him at the house, and how Chris was treating him, and then how Seth was reportedly treating him. And he was starting to talk about it. You see, this kid was getting older. I mean, he's 15 years old now. So I know for an absolute fact, I graduated from there. I know teachers in there. My kids went to school over there. I still know teachers over there. And I actually had an teacher assistant, that my kids had call me at the beginning of this and ask me how much I knew. And we had like an hour-long conversation, and she said to me herself, she said, "I'm telling you, they got rid of him because he was talking." CPS had reported being over here several times.
Yeah, see, like, all the stuff that, like, Seth is doing has made him look so much, like, guiltier in my mind as, like, the guilty, like, as being, like, solely having the motive. Like, I just don't think, because Katie and Chris were allegedly having those marital problems, right?
Chris and Katie were having they were having fights in their backyard. Yelling and screaming at each other. That was reported from multiple people. They were fighting and arguing. There was a neighbor close by that overheard Chris say, either you get rid of him or I am. He hated Sebastian. Hated him. That was reported at school. One of the counselors admitted, or one of the teachers admitted, knowing that he absolutely hated him. Apparently, he also said it to one of his coworkers that he hated him. He said, what did they call him? A freaking retard or something he called him.
Yeah.
So I know Chris hated him, and I think that he was causing major issues in their marriage because Katie, being the mom, was trying to deal with all of his emotional issues. I also know that, and this is still not been talked about, but it is absolutely confirmed that he did not have autism. He had a chromosome deficiency that produces... Well, yeah, but they're still not talking about that either, and I think that she brought that up because she knew that if she didn't say anything, they would just deem this as a missing persons report. Or
but I'm going to say something. So my mom was his letter. She know that, Bobby.
Yep.
What the fuck is that?
What, Stephen?
What?
I just seen something that pissed me off.
Oh.
Okay.
What'd you see?
That doesn't sound good.
Just fucking something else. Got nothing to do with it.
Huh. I don't know. Like, part of me just thinks that, I mean, I was so anti Chris and Katie at first, but see, like, I think that Sebastian was so desperate for friends that it's very possible he could have been lured out to the car thinking he was meeting somebody.
But he wasn't, because every single one of our neighbors that are on that street, all of them looked at the ring cameras, and there was absolutely nothing showing that anyone came on that street to pick him up or walk out with him. And the only video footage that has not been released to the public that, like I said, someone I know was there at the command center and saw with their own two eyes somebody carrying him out the front door. And Chris even admits that on the audio when he was talking to Narc Divers. He specifically said that the dog scent went out the front door, turned to the left, went between the houses exactly where the lights went. However, we were told on multiple occasions that there was zero dog scents. And I even asked the National Guard when they came with their dogs, I asked them, I said, did you guys get a scent? And they're like, well, we got something over in the construction site that then it went away. I'm like, well, that's because nobody asked the people on the construction site. Nobody stopped the construction. They were building houses and moving dirt around while the dogs were over there searching for a trail. Well, no wonder why. They said that they got something in the yard, but that wasn't expected because he was outside in the yard. Other than that, there was no other chemtrails. So he didn't just walk out of his house on his own 2 feet.
I'll have to look. I haven't looked at the Mob Cruise video. It's been sent to me, but I haven't looked at that yet.
That one where he shares the audio between Chris and the Narc Divers, where he was telling the Narc Divers exactly where the dogs were and where he literally tells you exactly what my neighbor told Steven and I today the lights were at. I mean, it was like, when I heard that, the first thing I thought was, and I told my neighbor, I said, oh my God, Chris basically just admitted exactly where they took him. That blew my mind.
See, I'm not to say, Bobby, I don't agree with that. I think that if he was there and he was watching the dogs...
He wasn't, but I think that was a lie. Chris, there was no, I asked multiple times, every one of the officers that had their dogs out here, every one of them said there was no trail. There was no trail from his house to the construction site. They have no idea how he went from his house over to the construction site. I went out there and I watched the dogs walking.
But that's what's weird, though, because when I talked to Danny and the other guy that was running the dogs, they told me that their dogs, there was also a third dog who was much younger that tracked also, lost the track after it went past that one house. And after that, the dog tried to do some, he was just too young. He obviously was not ready for the field. They actually ended up pulling that dog back.
I don't know about that one. I just know that the sheriff's department had dogs. Then TBI came in, and the National Guard brought their dogs. And every time we ever asked them, it was, there was not enough of a scent trail. There was a scent trail around his house, but it didn't lead us anywhere. And we were expecting that because of his house. So I'm telling you, from the neighbor next door, when she said that they had turned in their footage 2 weeks late when she was at the command center, and they saw this movement, and it looked like there was something draped over their shoulder. That was as soon as they said, she told me, she said, I'm telling you, somebody took him out of the house. And I'm like, okay, but what I'm saying about Chris's confession to me was that to me was Chris saying that he knows that they walked out with him, or somebody walked out with him. I don't think the dogs hit that. I mean, I think that they were carrying him out. And I think that Katie, they all know that what happened to him. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say, wow, I'm surprised. But I just think all three of them know what happened to him.
Yeah, see, I just don't think I think if anybody's involved, it's Seth. I don't think that Chris and Kate, don't get me wrong, I originally went down Katie and Chris. I was all the way, 100,000,000%. But he didn't have any motive.
Because Bobbie's sitting out here, and she'll tell you, we were standing there. Seth, I've been around Seth personally. Bobbie's been around Seth. He's a big dude who can't hardly, he's got back problems taking around. For him to move quickly, and he got that little dude. Not a little dude.
No, that was Katie that ran back.
See,
for her, absolutely. I would put I don't have $1 million, but if I had $1 million, I'd put $1 million on that being her that ran back.
but Seth could have easily gotten somebody to do it for him.
But see, the thing with this is, I will tell you that Chris is nasty. He is meaning, and he went off on my son and I one night and threatened his girlfriend in the Jeep. I still have it on a dash cam, which we didn't even realize it was running. Thank God it was. Where he confessed to me all kinds of crazy stuff, and afterwards it was over. My son and I looked at each other and we were like, "Wait, why did he tell us that? What is that? Why do we care?" He was telling us all kinds of stuff at the very beginning, and then threatened us with, "My mom's a realtor in Gallatin, and she knows everybody. She's got connections." And I'm like, I don't give a crap what your mom's doing. But that was a threat to me to shut my mouth and make sure I kept my mouth shut to let me know. That was intimidation. But he thought this. I just wish I could describe to you the demeanor. I mean, the man stood in the middle of the street as we're driving slowly down the street. Now, this is my neighborhood. You're not going to tell me what road I can and can't be on. I live here too. I can go wherever I want to go in whatever terminal I want to go. As long as I'm not disturbing the peace, which we really don't even have. We're in the county, so we don't even have a noise ordinance kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But when he stood in the middle of that street, he stood with his feet basically hip width apart, his arms crossed, and his chest all punched out like, "Whoa, you're not going to get past me." Put his hand out to stop us. My heart jumped out of my throat. I had my phone in my hand, and I thought at first it was the police. Because I thought maybe the police were still over there. And I thought, oh crap, we're going to have to explain to the police that we're not being weird. Then I realized when I found out it was him and his demeanor, I had my phone and I had 911 already on my phone and I was ready to hit send as soon as if I felt threatened by him. He's got this, I'm bigger than you. You are going to leave me alone and you're going to stop asking questions and you're going to get out of my face and you better not ever come back over here again. It was just this demeanor of get away from me and get off me. Leave me alone and stop messing with me. He is creepy as crap. And then he bold-faced lied to the entire world when he told everybody, this is Chris, that he was on a three-way call with Katie and that he called the non-emergency number because of where we live. That's bull. You cannot get 911 through the non-emergency line. The very first thing, the audio recording that comes up when you call the non-emergency line is, if this is an emergency, hang up and call 911. Now,
It's only then if you get to the non-emergency.
that's what I was getting. I know, and that was the next thing I was going to say is if that was his air quotes faster way to get to somebody, he wasted 5 minutes because you have to go through all the prompts, then you have to wait for a yes to connect your call. You've got a missing kid. If I had a missing kid, I would have been dialing 911.
You know how I know this? Because I had to call a non-emergency line the other day. There's a dude out here in front of my house. He's like speeding back and forth on his bike, and all of a sudden he's laying down on the back. I'm like, shit.
Oh, no.
He's like, yeah, I'm okay. So I just, look, I didn't see it as an emergency.
Right.
Like,
Just worried about he got hurt.
I had to call, and sure enough, nobody answered. And it was like, you need to speak to the detective.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you know, it took about 3 minutes, but
It took me almost 10 minutes. It took me almost 10 minutes the other night when that truck drove by, because obviously that's not an emergency, so I'm calling the non-emergency number. It took me almost 10 minutes to get a dispatcher because it kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. And I'm thinking, if my kid was missing, there ain't no way I'd call that. I'd be calling 911. I think what he did is these connections that he threatened me with. I think he called the non-emergency line to get a hold of whoever within Sumner County Sheriff's Office that he knows to say, hey, I'm going to need you guys to cover this up because this is what just happened, and then he got dispatched. I may be wrong with that one too, but why in the crap if your kid is missing?
They're going to record all that shit, Bobbie. They record all that shit, though. So he would have had to have called them on a private line.
I'm stupid and don't know there's a trash truck versus a cell phone footage. They're hiding all this crap. There is so much corruption in Sumner County. It is blatantly obvious. It's ridiculous. Craddock tried to convince me on the phone that those lights were a trash truck. And then he got mad at me because I was telling him that he was wrong. So, just saying.
Guys, I'm about to fix it off. I'm trying to go get my daughter. But at the end of the day, man, I'm hoping. My biggest thing is that.
So try to come to the surface.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, man. Is that we're looking at. I think what we're seeing in front of us is this Chris dude's a special guy, man. He's good at what he does, and so I think that key evidence is what. It's funny because it will prove that Sumner County lied. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Lied. And I think that's a positive thing, too, because we can, let's say that this is crucial evidence, well, we can easily say, okay, did they lie or did they willfully, neglectfully ignore facts?
Absolutely. Well, the fact that they didn't shut the house down and lock it down on day one, the fact that they didn't shut and lock down the construction site as they were searching through it with dogs, right there shows you. And then my son saw that Thursday, the week that he went missing, that Thursday, my son reported to the that flyer that they were passing out to everybody that had to report what you see, whatever number on it. I think it was to the command post. Well, of course we had that just in case we saw anything. And it was that following Thursday or Friday, my son was standing out in our deck, which faces the construction site. And he was disappear, come back on, move around, and then just disappear in the woods over in the construction area. Well, he calls that number, and the guy said, "Okay, we'll come check it out. Thank you for letting us know." Nobody came. Nobody even called him back to say, "Hey, tell me exactly where this was." I know Terry Lynn found all kinds of crap, and she reported it, and they told her that they weren't looking for that kind of stuff. I'm telling y'all, there is something going on.
I definitely will agree with that. There's something fishy in the air over there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I just that's something we can all agree on when it comes to stuff we're doing these days. I'm talking something in this shit. Did you? One of the older ages days, I talk to Jerry all the time. You know, it's sickening.
Yes. I just hope, Stephen, that you keep looking and you keep doing what you're doing, because I think, you're one of the good guys that really actually care and you're not in it for the money, and you're trying to, get information. So I just hope that you will continue doing what you're doing, and I will continue giving you information that I find out. But I think today was really good.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Today was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, be on the lookout for some random ass vehicle in your neighborhood too,
Here's something like that.
and
I
put
think
that.
it's pretty damning, you know what I'm saying? Come out of, it's not saying nothing against you, you know what I'm saying? But
No, I know. It confirms exactly what I was told.
well, and that's the thing, guys. It goes back. I think it's pretty damning, right? Because it made you look bad on JLR. But when the mom crew put out this video, it proved at that moment, like he proved it. That's not a fucking trash truck.
Right.
So, and I think that right there should establish help at least start to establish like your credibility with that part of everything. And like, she was trying to tell us. So,
Steven, send Bobby my number too. Like,
we're at a weird road right now, but I do think that we're at the very end of a very long road. That this money, do I think this money will make anybody talk? No, I truly don't. But I'll offer to put $2,500 with it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Steven, send Bobby my number.
If you add money to the reward fund, that's a lie. Just FYI, you cannot.
Oh.
I called the FBI in Memphis.
like
They
that.
definitely told me that you cannot.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, now I feel like a jackass.
Well, you tried.
Yeah. So, well, because the way I look at it is like, I'm not putting money in the fucking hands of Francis Seth or anybody. I'm just going to put it in this pot. And so what if it never gets used? At least it might, maybe one day it goes to something good, you know?
Right.
So, but who knows, man?
She was trying to say something. What were you trying to say?
I was saying, hey Steven, send her my number too, so she just like has it.
Okay, yeah, no, dude. I got you.
But yeah, Bullhorn, I don't like. She was trying. It was very odd because people were even pointing that out. Like, where is she at in her house? Like, kind of like, where is she at in her house? You know, like that's not her bed. She doesn't have her dog with her. You know.
Can she have your number, or you want to keep it guarded?
Have my number?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as she doesn't like spread it all over the world.
Oh,
I'm fine
yeah.
with it.
She's definitely not that.
I just-
Yeah,
have
no,
to go
I don't-
after how I was treated by everybody on jail or crap like that. I just try to make sure. Yeah, I feel like I can trust Steven now. So once
Yeah,
I get
no,
to know
I
somebody
don't-
else,
I don't-
can trust you. I'm
like-
okay, I'm willing to help you out and call you when I hear something.
No, I freaking am friends with. I still talk to Riley's parents. Like, I still haven't made up figured out what exactly went on, but something isn't right with that whole thing.
Right.
And I never talked about it. I mean, I never really, I never even asked them to come to bat for me on certain stuff, cause it just didn't matter at the end of the day. I didn't go through what they went through, but it's just, I would definitely recommend putting up a sign that at the beginning of the neighborhood saying this is under surveillance.
Yeah.
And
I talk to my neighbors and see if they.
you don't even have to. You don't even have to. You don't even have to put up cameras, Bobby. Y'all just put up a sign that says that is.
I try not to be this. Even though I'm the admin of the group, starting the group, I don't want to come across as this. Well,
Over being
super nosy neighbor that wants to control everything kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of us are just burnt out with all of the YouTubers that keep coming through here, and then people that, you know, say crap about our neighborhood and try to tell us that, well, I can't believe they don't have, you know, somebody said, well, the whole neighborhood should have green everywhere, and then nobody cares about him because the whole neighborhood should be decorated in green.
Hold the fuck up. What about the other missing kids, man? What about them? What about Deanna's daughter, or her niece that she raised, Brooke Anderson, who's been missing for fucking 7 years? What about that? What about these other kids that go missing every day? That's something that I don't tolerate. Am I close to the Sebastian stuff? And do I care? Absolutely. But there are other fucking kids that are passed up every day, not spoke about. That shit just pissed me off, man. Talking about
they were
green everywhere. Shut the fuck up with that.
Well, it didn't make any sense to me, and, like, you know, several of my neighbors that I'm friends with and know, you know, well around here asked me, like, you know, what the crap is going on with all this stuff, and they're like, you know, why do we need signs all over our yard and everything green? We know the kid's missing. We're very aware of this. We're the neighborhood that got flipped upside down and got invaded by, you know, everybody to look for this kid. And you're yelling at us for not having signs everywhere? We're aware he's gone.
Now, on the 6-month anniversary, I can understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would say, put some green in there, man. That's your neighborhood. So, you know, be like, hey, man, especially given he's not found, okay? Or the year mark, stuff like that.
We had vigils. I mean, we had a vigil with everybody in the neighborhood that came down. We all prayed for him. We all walked around. We all talked about it. We're all, you know, we all went out searching the first few days. All of us were out in our neighborhood. We all looked around our yard. We all looking around. We all drove, several of us drove around town looking for him. We have been out doing stuff that we don't need signs everywhere and posters everywhere. We're aware of this.
Yeah.
We're living it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't believe in having it. I mean, and that's also bad to keep living in the past. Something, I mean, you got to move forward.
Well, that's kind of where we are now. I think everybody's just burnt out and just ready to move on. We want him found, and especially several of us have said we want to move on, but we also want him found, and we definitely want him found, especially if there's some kind of foul play. You know, nobody wants to think that if they did do something to him, that they continue to live in that house. And they are bringing us stress. If they did something to him... Okay, we'll talk later.
All right.